Our rights are on the line, folks. Our reproductive rights.
Ugh.
Come on.
Go get Cheshire Cat.
Go vote blue. And if you disagree with this sentiment, just hit the unfollow button.
Wow, what a scene.
I don't need your business.
She's now bragging about the success of Snow White, which is a movie that's going to lose hundreds of millions of dollars. And mainly because of her and because nobody wanted to support her. There are empty theaters all around the country. We are now at a 1 out of 10 on IMDb for the new Snow White. And it couldn't happen to a better person.
What if Disney's boldest swing at a fairy tale classic turned into its most humiliating faceplant? Snow White 2025 was supposed to be the crown jewel of their live-action empire, a dazzling reimagining with a rising star and a modern edge. Instead, it's a train wreck that's left theaters empty, fans furious, and the studio bleeding cash. Rachel Zegler's front and center, soaking up the heat, while Disney scrambles to dodge the fallout. How did it all go so wrong? Buckle up, this story's got more twists than a poisoned apple could dream of.
Don't alienate half of the country when you're putting out a product meant to appeal to all. It's the Michael Jordan Republicans buy sneakers too. For every one of the 18 hours I am in the Snow White dress, I expect to get paid. If it's 18 hours, I want 18 hours of pay. I'm sure she got underpaid as a Disney lead actress.
Disney's been on a tear with live-action remakes for years. The Lion King raked in billions, Aladdin dazzled with Will Smith's genie, and Beauty and the Beast proved nostalgia's a goldmine. So when Snow White got the green light, expectations soared. The 1937 original was the studio's first animated hit, a cultural icon with its 7 dwarfs, evil queen, and swoony prince. Early buzz painted the 2025 version as a fresh spin, blending that old-school charm with a contemporary kick. But then the cracks started showing. Leaks about slashed romance and weird CGI tweaks hit the web, and the fairy tale glow dimmed fast. Something felt off, and it was about to get worse.
People have real problems and no one gives a shit if she got paid for 17 instead of 18 on her multi-million-dollar salary, which is not calculated by the hour. So she just encapsulates everything that most of us cannot stand about modern day feminism and the left in general, and Hollywood.
Rachel Zegler was the spark Disney banked on to light this thing up. Fresh off her breakout in Spielberg's West Side Story, she snagged the lead role in 2021, beating out a sea of hopefuls. At 20, she had pipes, charisma, and a Golden Globe to back her up. Hollywood's next big thing. Fans were split from the jump. Some saw a perfect Snow White, youthful, talented, a Latina lead breaking molds. Others raised eyebrows at her inexperience with a franchise this massive. Then she opened her mouth. Zegler didn't just take the part, she vowed to reshape it, and her words would soon haunt her, but that fire was still simmering for now.
Her heroine cannot be in love or be saved by a man, the prince, that she's more focused on becoming the leader she was meant to be, as if women in modern day America must make that choice.
The rewrite was where the trouble really kicked in. Disney didn't want a damsel waiting for a kiss. They wanted a Snow White who'd lead, not love. Zegler was all in, hyping a heroine who'd ditch the prince and chase her own destiny. She's not dreaming about true love, she said in interviews. She's dreaming about becoming the leader she knows she can be. It sounded empowering, bold, a middle finger to the 1937 vibe where a stalkerish prince saves the day. But fans of the classic bristled. Why gut the romance that made Snow White? Well, Snow White. Rumors swirled that the script had been overhauled multiple times, stripping out the heart for something edgier, and what came next would push them over the edge.
Be a leader as a female and fall in love and be rescued by a prince? Like, that's incongruous bullshit. That's only the left's version of what it means to be a strong woman or female empowerment.
The dwarfs, or lack thereof, lit the fuse on a full-blown revolt. In the original, those 7 little guys were the soul of the story. Disney had other plans. Instead of casting dwarf actors, they rolled out CGI magical creatures to replace Doc, Dopey, and the rest. The move reeked of DEI panic. Insiders hinted the studio feared backlash over stereotypes, so they sidestepped real people entirely. Dwarf actors called it out fast, slamming Disney for cutting jobs while preaching inclusion. Fans weren't buying it either. CGI blobs instead of characters, one tweeted. This ain't Snow White, it's a tech demo. The controversy exploded online, with hashtags and rants tearing into the choice. It was a misstep that'd haunt the production straight to the screen.
So, I mean, this woman has clicked every box. And just for cherry on top at the end, she gave an interview last week talking about how they were basically a bunch of white supremacists on the set of West Side Story, where Steven Spielberg and co. were demanding that she prove how Latina she really is, since her name doesn't sound Latina. And she was angrily saying, did I have to bring in my little abuelita for you to believe that I was Latina?
Behind the scenes, things were spiraling into a nightmare. The budget started at a hefty $150 million, but ballooned past $250 million, some whisper $300 million, with endless reshoots. 3 separate rounds, each pricier than the last, tried to fix a script that wouldn't gel. Sources say creative clashes tanked morale. Directors clashed with execs, writers scrambled to patch holes. And Zegler's push for her vision didn't help. The result? A film that felt like a puzzle with half the pieces missing. Abrupt cuts, shaky pacing, and a tone that couldn't decide what it wanted to be. By the time they wrapped, it wasn't just over budget, it was overcooked. And the audience was about to feast on the leftovers.
It is another to convince investors that the deficits can be overlooked. When a production...
Disney's Bob Iger says their mission is to entertain, not send messaging as Snow White sales compete for worst performing live action Disney adaptation ever.
Opening weekend was a ghost town. Theaters across the country sat empty. Some quipped there were more dwarfs than viewers. A dark jab at the CGI fiasco. IMDb ratings tanked to a brutal 1.6 out of 10, with 163,000 users piling on the hate. Reviews ripped it apart. A disjointed mess. An unsettling fever dream. A fairy tale with no magic. The acting got flack, the writing felt shallow, and that bizarre finale, a dance party in white outfits, left people stunned. What even was that? One viewer posted. Even Disney diehards, the ones who'd clap for anything with a castle logo, turned sour. Social media lit up with memes and rants, and the numbers didn't lie. This was a flop nobody could spin.
That's her thanks to Steven Spielberg, who discovered her and made her. So she's an ingrate. She's annoying, and I think she's probably 2 and done.
And if she hadn't have opened her mouth, I think that this movie might have done well. They might have just been able to ride on the hopium of the movie and some well-cut trailers, and people would have paid to go see it, and then it would have fallen off when people knew it was garbage.
Rachel Zegler didn't flinch. She swung back harder. This is about progress. She fired off in interviews, pinning the hate on a certain demographic, too stubborn to evolve. She doubled down on X, ranting about 18 hours of pay for grueling shoot days, and dragging her West Side Story crew as white supremacists who doubted her Latina roots. Clips went viral, but not in her favor. Fans called her entitled ungrateful, a far cry from the humble starlet they'd cheered years back. She had the chance of a lifetime and torched it. One comment read, her defiance didn't rally the troops. It painted a target on her back, and the flames kept climbing.
But Rachel Zegler made it so hateable that you really sabotaged and took hundreds of millions of dollars from the studio. I don't know how anyone would ever want to go into business with her ever again.
Disney tried to duck the heat, but there was no hiding. The marketing machine that had roared pre-release shrank to a whimper, ads pulled, promos scaled back. Merchandise was the real casualty. Snow White dolls, shirts, and mugs hit clearance racks or never left the warehouse. Bob Iger stepped up, claiming Disney's about entertainment, not messaging, but it sounded hollow. Losses were piling up, and insiders say execs were in panic mode, slashing ties to the sinking ship. The studio that had banked on brand power was now staring at a PR disaster and a bank account bleeding red, but the real kicker was still coming.
Do you know, like, how hard it is to find an attractive young woman in Hollywood who can act and sing? It's not hard. Like, who just isn't going to offend half the country? 25,000 more just like her knocking on the same doors that she had opened to her. She had the opportunity of a lifetime, and instead of being humble and grateful, she was entitled and a snot. And I will look forward to her not getting cast in any more movies for a long time until she actually does learn something about humanity and humility.
The financial hit was apocalyptic, with costs topping $300 million, principal shooting, reshoots, marketing, the works. Snow White needed a global haul to survive. It didn't even come close. Opening weekend barely scraped millions, and the weeks after limped worse. Analysts call it Disney's biggest live-action bust, dwarfing flops like John Carter or The Lone Ranger. The studio's remake formula, slap a classic name on it, cash the checks, crumbled. Shareholders fumed, demanding answers from Iger's crew. Whispers of delayed projects and budget cuts started swirling. This wasn't just a loss, it was a reckoning.
What was this Academy Awards? Anyway, feminist Conor McGregor.
Who the fuck is that guy?
It's a weird walk for a weird broad, and I don't like her.
It is, and it's really mean to put her next to Gal Gadot, who's absolutely stunning.
Yeah.
So
it's not fair.
So what broke this fairy tale? Was it Zegler turning a shaky film into a hate magnet with every word? Her progressive crusade alienated half the audience, and her PR misfires didn't help. Or was it Disney chasing relevance with a bloated budget and a story nobody asked for? The dwarf swap, the reshoots, the tone-deaf tweaks all screamed overreach. Maybe it's both. A star who couldn't stop talking and a studio that couldn't stop spending. Fans wanted Snow White, not a lecture hall, and they voted with their wallets. The question now is whether Disney's learned anything from the ashes.
It's no longer 1937, and we absolutely wrote a Snow White that is
saved by the prince.
She's not going to be saved by the prince, and she's not going to be dreaming about
she's gonna die.
true love. She's dreaming about becoming the leader she knows she can be.
Here's the twist. This might not just be Ziegler's fall or Disney's stumble. It could be the end of an era. The remake machine's been humming for a decade, banking on nostalgia to fill seats. Snow White 2025 says that's not enough anymore. Fans aren't here for half-baked reboots that ditch what they loved. Ziegler's out there bragging about a success that's losing hundreds of millions, while Disney's left holding the bag. Will they rethink the playbook or double down on the next fairy tale? That's the real cliffhanger, and it's one worth watching.